Hello, I'm Carmelita Greco. Welcome to Faith and Freedom, where we discuss the aspects of faith and freedom that will edify and bring restoration to our republic. How wonderful it is to be born in a free nation that values freedom and individual liberty. Hello, I'm Carmelita Greco. It has been nearly 9 months since COVID-19 has hit the shores of America. Some say there have been cases as early as 12 months ago. This is not our first pandemic, but it is the first pandemic that has closed churches, closed private businesses, restaurants, slowed food production, and even canceled Easter service and Thanksgiving dinner. Suicide rates have gone up by 80% in some cities, and overdoses have doubled. Increased mental health conditions and spousal abuse is also on the rise. But many of these shocking numbers are completely ignored by major news outlets. Are we currently simultaneously experiencing a greater crisis than COVID-19? And is there a cry for help being released from many in our community that is being completely ignored? Is there a greater crisis of hopelessness that only faith can solve? According to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, there has been an estimated 1.4 million suicide attempts in the U.S. in 2018, which included 43,344 deaths. There are no recent numbers of how suicide rates have been affected by COVID-induced fear, forced isolation, and joblessness, but some studies see that the number is doubling in 2020. This shocking trend shows that the U.S. suicide rate has increased by 35% since 1999, with the highest rate of death in middle-aged Caucasian males. According to a recent Johns Hopkins study, the reported deaths for the U.S. between October 2019 and October 2020 were 1.7 million, nearly 250,000 attributed to COVID. If we compare the 1.4 suicide attempts, it nearly mirrors the number of persons that died that same year from natural causes. A recent CDC report shows that nearly 41% of adults say they've had at least one mental health effect, including symptoms of anxiety or depression, symptoms of trauma, or increased substance abuse to cope. It's further clear that social distancing, economic stress, barriers to mental health treatment, and closed churches will only make these numbers increase. These statistics have been almost completely ignored by mainstream media, and anyone looking at these staggering numbers can see that there has been something profound that has changed in the fabric of our culture for such a high rate of self-induced deaths. I believe we have a crisis of hopelessness that only faith can solve. Mankind is searching for purpose, and as we eliminate the deeper meaning of life, our emotions get tossed around with the challenging events we experience day to day. The uncertainty that 2020 has brought will clearly have an effect on these staggering numbers. We will get through this pandemic, but will we regain our peace, our faith, and our compromised freedoms? Or will our government have full reign to shut us down whenever a flu or virus number is too high? And who will have the courage to start a business with this type of government grip over our future? Will the false hope of waiting for COVID numbers to go down dig us into a ditch that we will not be able to recover from? I want to put a few facts in perspective and lessen our overall fear level. COVID-19 has a death rate of less than 0.1% of our total population of 333 million, with primarily affecting individuals with severe health conditions. In contrast, the Spanish flu killed nearly 50 million and possibly up to 100 million, making it one of the deadliest viruses in human history. Cholera deaths in India between 1817 and 1860 affected nearly 15 million people. And when it hit the shores of America, 150,000 people died out of a population of 23 million. The plague or Black Death is attributed to killing nearly 200 million people in the 14th century. Although fatal to some, the effects of COVID has a significantly lower rate of fatality. This does not neglect the Americans that have died due to the complications with this virus, but it's important to note that the rate of annual deaths per previous year is virtually unchanged, even with this new coronavirus in our midst. A recent Johns Hopkins study reported that the annual death rate between October 2019 and October 2020 was virtually unchanged from the previous year. Johns Hopkins Dr. Genevieve Briand, Assistant Programs Director of Applied Economics Master's degree at Hopkins, critically analyzed the effect of COVID-19 on U.S. deaths using data from the CDC. She revealed that not only has COVID-19 had no effect on the percentage of deaths of older people, but it has also not increased the total number of annual deaths. There was a strange anomaly in the reported numbers showing that COVID deaths surpassed the deaths due to heart disease. Heart disease has been a leading cause of deaths for many years, and these puzzling numbers show heart disease deaths going down and COVID surpassing heart disease. This likely shows that some heart disease patients could have been coded as COVID deaths. Johns Hopkins later pulled this report from public view. But let's take a look at her research.
Heart attacks are the leading cause of death in the United States, right? It's a green line below our all-cause line, right? So it's the leading cause of death in the United States. Yet we see COVID numbers above heart attacks number from week ending April 11 to week ending May 2nd. What's going on? So we zoom in, right? We got rid of our blue line, our total death count. And so we want to see, look at all those causes. So I got rid of the COVID-19 line to see better what's going on, right? So first thing we see is when we compare the peak of heart attack numbers, so the death numbers due to heart attacks in 2020 to the number of deaths due to heart attack in 2018, right? So during our two period where we observed the peaks of total death, we see there was, during that peak, less heart attacks or deaths due to heart disease in 2020 than there were in 2018 by 367. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense at all. It doesn't make sense because, like we said earlier, right? Every peak, total death peak, corresponds to peak in all causes of death, right? It makes, right? We have more death from all the different causes, and that brings up the total death number. So our death number increased in 2020, and we have less heart attack than in 2018. Where have all the heart attacks gone?
If we compare viruses or pandemics in history, COVID-19 clearly ranks the least deadly pandemic, but it irrationally led to the greatest level of fear and control over our free society. This pandemic has led to a crisis of unconstitutional governing that has affected our country in the last 9 months. A California church was fined $50,000 every week it was met for service. Pastor Jack Tabor of North Valley Baptist Church gives an update.
The first 3 words of the Constitution is we, the people, not we, the government. The government works for the people. I'm Pastor Jack Tabor of North Valley Baptist Church in Santa Clara, California. Well, the government's done it again. They've ratcheted this thing up. They just posted more signs on our building. Because they said we're having an indoor gathering, we are not social distancing, which is not true, by the way. We are refusing to wear face masks, and we're now, again, singing in church. And we've not given them a protocol. Well, we're not allowed to give them a protocol because they won't accept it. So they fined us $250 for one day. The next day, $500. The next day, $1,000. The next day, $2,000. The next day, $4,000. And now the last 4 days, they've just given to us $5,000 a day. America, this is a serious moment. In just these few days, we're up to $52,000. Government, you cannot take away our freedom. You cannot take our right to assemble. County, state of California, it must stop. One, I'm asking you to stop all fines. And two, I'm asking you to remove all fines. This is not Caesar's money. This is God's money. We have rendered unto Caesar the things that are Caesar, and we have rendered unto God through our tithes and offerings, which is His. I'm not threatening at all today, but I'm going to tell you this, all the more, we are not closing down this church. I hope you get this message. I don't know what the consequences on your part is going to be, but I know America does not want this to happen in her country and at this church. God bless you, America. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your encouragement.
A Ventura County pastor was also fined for holding church services.
I love the people of the city, I love the county, but I also love God.
Newberry Park pastor and former city council member Rob McCoy took the stand Friday morning, explaining why he held church services indoors, despite COVID-19 public health orders.
When the governor embraced the Black Lives Matter movement, shoulder to shoulder, we realized that we could open. We have ionization machines, hand sanitizer. We've had no outbreak since May 31st.
On August 7th, the Ventura County Superior Court granted a temporary restraining order requiring Godspeed Calvary Chapel and Pastor McCoy to adhere to the statewide and local public health orders requiring church services to be held either online or outdoors with mask and physical distancing. But that very next Sunday, the church was packed inside. Friday's hearing determined whether the chapel or McCoy should be held in contempt.
It's unconscionable to think that in the United States of America, we went into court in fear that a pastor might have been taken to jail in contempt.
Ultimately, Judge Vincent O'Neill decided against jail time, but fined McCoy $500 for each service that was held, for a total of $3,000.
It is a small price to pay to stand in defense of all the citizens in our community.
And when asked if McCoy will continue to hold church services inside,
No comment right now.
in Ventura, I'm News Channel reporter Senere de los Santos.
A New York rabbi begs for President Trump to help the Jewish community in New York under Governor Cuomo's harsh restrictions, preventing meetings and burial ceremonies.
I'm talking with Rabbi Handler. Are you aware of what Governor Cuomo just said an hour ago?
Yes, I saw the information that you cannot have more than 10 people in shul. What's happening right now is we are being subjected to a soft pogrom. It's called the slicing the salami technique. Every day they slice another slice and they push us to the wall and they bully us. I don't think that the Haskanim and many of the Rabbanim are aware of what's going on. Rabbi Yitzchak David Smith is aware, and he made a video and warned us about it. So I'm going to explain what's going on, but first I want to start off by making an appeal to the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, who's always been nice to Jews, and to his Attorney General, Mr. Barr. We have no representation here in New York State. We have no protection. We have a governor who's a mass murderer who has killed over 11,000 people in nursing homes. There's no argument about that. He did it intentionally. He was warned that if he put sick people in nursing homes who have COVID, they would die. And he threatened the nursing home owners if they don't take them, and they don't, and that they would lose their licenses. And the threat of blackmail, they took them in. 40% of the deaths in New York State, over 11,000 people died was 40% was in nursing homes, directly due to Governor Cuomo and to his Dr. Mengele, Howard Zucker, who works for him, takes his orders. We have a mayor in this city who is a communist, a leftist communist, who has no regard for business people. He allowed rioters to destroy Macy's, destroy all the stores on Fifth Avenue, Madison Avenue. He did not let the police stop them. Looting, destruction, firebombs, and to this very day, they're under threat. People in the stores are being robbed in the stores by people wilding in the stores. I have that information. So I appeal to you, President Trump and Attorney General Barr, we have no protection here. The city is totally anarchy, in a state of anarchy. You have already proclaimed that New York City is a city that is in terror, and now we'd like you to take action and do something to sue the mayor and sue the governor and stop them from conducting this soft pogrom against our community. We are not being allowed to pray in our synagogues. You have already taken action in Washington, D.C. to protect the churches there from the mayor over there. And we'd like you to come here and do the same thing. We are not allowed to open our schools and our yeshivas and our Beis Yaakov schools for our girls. We're being deprived of an education. Our children are wandering the streets and being destroyed. In Jewish thought, this is called pikuach nefesh. Godol hamachtio yosem in ahargo. To kill a person spiritually is worse than to kill him physically. And our children are being killed spiritually by these restrictions, by these lockdowns. And the governor says that, well, it's because I love you.
Business owners have also had a difficult time finding employees and are struggling to stay open.
Hello, Antonio Ruggiero. When COVID impacted our lives months ago, my family and staff promised to do our part and to feed the community. Today, we face another challenge, as many restaurants close their doors, never to open again. We are faced with the problems of finding help. Our lawmakers continue to make it easy to stay home and collect unemployment rather than go to work. At Antonio's in Roman Village, we believe a loyal workforce creates a strong family and a strong community, which we're blessed to have. Please join our family. But it's not intended to be negative or political. It's intended to bring attention to what's happening to everybody.
Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer finds a local barbershop owner and even threatens jail time.
You know, so I'm a self-employed barber. I can make adult decisions for myself, and all the people that are sitting in this barbershop today have made an adult decision for themselves. I don't need the governor to be my mother. I have one. You know, God bless her, she's gone now, but I don't need another mother. So I can make these adult decisions myself, and I can take care of myself and run my own business the way I feel that I need to run it.
Took my lunch break, came down here, brought my laptop and my phone, and working remote from the lobby. I'm going to go ahead and support him, get my hair cut, and leave a big tip. I think it's a wrong thing to tell people, you know, well, you can be open and you can't, and by the way, you can't work, but we're going to tell you what you can do when you're home. It just doesn't seem like anybody else gets to make those decisions. That's our decisions to make.
Personally, I feel that every business should be allowed to do business. I think they can do it safely. If we can go into a Walmart where there are tons of people, and I touch an apple, they're touching all of the fruit, whatnot. If we can go into a Walmart, why can't we go into a barbershop? What's the difference?
I can't just, you know, I'm scared. To tell you the truth, you know, I didn't know whether I was going to be the only flag out here waving in the wind or what, you know, just kind of waddling by myself. But I didn't really have any choice. I had to work through those fears and get some courage and open up. You know, I'm still fearful that, you know, maybe I'm going to get arrested. You know, maybe I'll have a big fine. Maybe, you know, that maybe I'll lose my license. You know, I mean, it's all these kind of things that you have fear. But I had to charge through those fears and decide, you know, I really have to do this in spite of that. I'm going to have to work through it. and have enough courage to be able to do this.
This is just a small handful of lawsuits and fines being placed on American people under the guise of public safety. All of these orders and fines represent the unconstitutional governing of public officials that think it's their place to step on personal liberty for the greater good of the American people. This is a new virus in our environment, but we should not live in fear or live as it is the only enemy of mankind. We need to be rational about our emotions and learn to come to terms with life and death. Hard times come and go, but if we allow our liberty to be taken, our children will inherit tyranny. A population that lives in fear can be controlled and manipulated. We are Americans, the land of the free and the home of the brave. We must be brave in the face of conflict and go on living, working, and learning. Some things are even greater than life itself, and those things are God, family, and liberty. Our country was founded by men and women that risked everything, even their lives, for freedom. They faced starvation, disease, war, and violence. Our veterans also face similar challenges. Right now, I would like to pray with you because we are in trying times, but our situation is not hopeless. There is a God of hope that can bring restoration. I want to declare that the righteous will take their place of authority in our nation. Our nation was built by deeply spiritual people, and our freedoms will be preserved and our faith restored by the same Spirit that established America. In the name of Jesus, I pray for the purposes and the hand of God over our nation, that the righteous will rise up in their place of authority, and a spirit of boldness and righteousness will rest on them. We call down the spirit of fear and release the spirit of peace. I pray that the living God and the miracles of God will be known to the least and to the greatest in America. I pray for a restoration of biblical morality and righteousness to rest over our children and our children's children. I declare a miracle will continue to be a beacon of hope, a refuge to the lost, and a light to the world. Freedom will reign in our land, and we will continue under our sovereign identity. Trust that the God that founded our nation is mighty to restore. God bless you all, and rejoice in the Lord always.